Hey, day 64, still no Eric Braverman or Neil Brown or Mark Turi. Today I want to look at motives because motives are an important part of any kind of investigation and they're extremely important in any kind of prosecution. First, review the facts. There's 4 steps that Hillary committed. The first 2 were to take this part of Libya and then take this part of Libya. That resulted in 30 billion and 256 billion or 65 billion in hidden assets, frozen assets and hidden assets. So that was kind of the first crime, if you will. The second attempted robbery or attempted crime was the topple of Assad in Syria, and then that didn't go so well, and I'll show you how those gas attacks didn't go so well. So the gang, if you will, and the bag man, the money man, was Blumenthal, and the gang was Muslim Brotherhood. And the weapons that were going to be used were going to be first Turi's guns, and then get these stingers. And then we're going to take those stingers, and we're going to try this second bank job here in Syria. Okay? So now what are the motivations? Who's bankrolling the robberies, basically? There's 2. There's the oil bankrollers, and there's also the arms bankrollers. So you can think of this as the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and all those senators are basically oil senators. So, you know, like a Lugar or whatever. And then you can think of the Senate Armed Services Committee, which Petraeus really focused on, as the Senate Arms Deal Club. So there's an oil club and then there's an arms club. And that's why these 2 are always together at KKNR doing arms and oil shows, because it's really 2 sides of the same coin. So this is KKNR Global Institute now. But before that, Hillary spent an awful lot of time with Petraeus in the Arms Committee. So there's the arms motive and then there's the oil motive. Now, the reason they bring in Braverman is to hide the arms motive and hide the oil motive and arms motive by putting a kind of a social justice face on things. So they create this funnel called IHRC for Haiti, and they're going to take the focus away from the Middle East, and they're going to put the focus on the earthquake in Haiti. So we're going to take all this money where people normally would be watching, reporters would be watching and saying, where is this money going? You know, and who's doing what and who's all behind this? And they're going to shift the focus over to Haiti and the relief effort. So now you're going to find as this money starts coming in, the Hillary people and the Bill people, the Hills and the Bills I call them, in the Clinton Foundation are going to be fighting over this money so much as it's coming in that she's going to attempt or thinking about suicide on the Staten Island ferry. So they bring in Braverman after Hillary leaves and bring in Neil Brown to kind of put this, social justice kind of face on things. And I do believe he believes in what he says still. So IHRC is your funnel. So this is just a big, what they call intelligence services. The big move over here, the Haiti earthquake, covers the small moves over here. Now these are pretty big moves, but it's a misdirection to go through Haiti. Okay, so why do I say that? Well, let's examine the motives of the people who will benefit, let's say, for the toppling of Syria. Well, this is the oil company that will benefit in Haiti, it'll benefit in Libya, and it'll benefit in the oil construction company, and it'll benefit in Syria. His father, this guy here in Syria, who's running the human rights organization from Coventry, England, is the owner, is the heir apparent of this guy. That's his dad. So this is the largest construction company, oil construction company in the Middle East. They build all the pipelines, they build all the roads to service the pipelines and the infrastructure, and then they build luxury hotels. So that's why you see Dubai and Qatar and Bahrain have these huge, incredible buildings and so forth. That's CCC. So that's the motivation here. So when I say I'm the sole, when CNN and BBC and Le Monde and Der Spiegel and El País quote this guy as what's really going on in Syria with the white helmets, you have to take it with a grain of salt. He's one guy doing oil conferences. Here he is in an oil conference in Kazakhstan, selling the Kazakhstan to Greek pipeline that Neil Brown created from the previous screen. So he's there selling. So you can see the motivations here aren't, I've been 20 years in the Peace Corps or 10 years at Red Cross or Médecins Sans Frontières. No, he's an oil guy sitting up in his house in the UK trying to get Americans to take over and bomb Assad so he can come back in and sell all the oil, just like the other guy I showed did for Libya, Kakia. The other guy who is out there bankrolling the PR campaign for the White Helmets is also a billionaire, and he's a billionaire for a company called Petrofact. Petrofact designs oil pipelines and designs infrastructure to support oil pipelines. They're the architect, and this is kind of this construction company. And here they bid together all the time, CCC and Petrofact, and they win these multi-billion-dollar contracts. Now, who is he working with when he's bankrolling the White Helmets? Does he come out and say, hey, I'm an oil billionaire and I just want to let you know we should topple Assad and I'm doing it for the good of Syria? No, he goes through a front. The front he goes through is Max Blumenthal. Who's Max Blumenthal? He's the son of the guy who overthrew Gaddafi for his oil. So this is just, looking at motive is a very clean and clear and obvious way to see that the motivations here are not humanitarian in any way. There's this oil play here in Syria, and there's an oil play in Libya. So here's the whole Haiti thing. We're going to, Braverman through this company, Tembo, we're going to bring in a kind of a social justice guy, Jeff Skoll. We're going to put a friendly face on CCC, but then we're going to use CCC to build roads here in the northern part of Haiti and then do the pipelines. And then we're also going to probably build luxury hotels either here or in Dominican Republic. We're going to use this AID money, this Hillary's checkbook basically, and Eric Braverman's going to write the proposal and Hillary's going to send the $6 billion in. So not only are we're not, even though we're going to make all this money with the construction, we're still going to have Hillary do all the infrastructure for us through the World Bank, okay, and Braverman. Then we'll come in and use the electrical grid and the roads and everything. We won't have to pay for it and maximize our profits. Now, there's also, when they take over these countries, unfortunately, they kill a lot of people, a lot of parents, and you create a lot of orphans. And so this, unfortunately, happens. So you're going to see this child trafficking happening a lot. So let's take step 3 and 4 and see what went wrong. Well, they were trying to topple Assad to get this pipeline through to Bulgaria from Qatar. Okay, now it's going to be these guys down in Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia that paid for this invasion that are also going to get these kids that are orphans when you end up having the bombing of Aleppo. So what happened here was they used the gas attack to take over Aleppo, and that created a village or a large, huge city of hostages, of human shields. They keep the parents upstairs, they have the kids downstairs, the parents get killed when they get bombed, and then they literally take pictures of all the kids, and then they send them down to these oil sheiks down here, and then they marry them off if they're 6 or 7 years old. The White Helmets, during the day, do great things. They pull kids out of rubble and put them on CNN, for photo opportunities, but at night they're taking these kids to these oil sheiks down here and marrying them off, if you can call that marrying. Who says so? Well, that's Ava Bartlett. She's there a week ago. This guy over here says different. He hasn't been in Syria in 12 years, and he's going to take over Assad's oil, and he's the key source for CNN. But the people are actually on the ground are saying, no, it's exactly the opposite. And the crime and the tragedy of this is they're going to go to Palmyra and Idlib, and do the same thing to those populations. So ISIS is going to do that. Anyway, Morell is going to, with the CIA and his people that are still at the CIA, are going to try this huge gas attack for one more chance for Rahman to take over Syria, and it fails. And even though ISIS has all the gas masks and the antidotes and everything, so you're going to find that there's testing of this gas, and the first testing that happened in Port and Down in 2013 came back. Gaddafi's gas had his signatures, not Assad's. And you're going to find the one in Aleppo that just happened with the huge Russian team that went in there. They sent it off to the World Court. You're going to find that gas was also from Gaddafi's. So not only are we going to topple the dictator, not only are we going to take all the money, but then we're going to send his chemical weapons over to do that again to another one. And the plan was to keep going through Turkey and then do an economic coup over in Greece to complete this whole pipeline all the way through. And this is Rahman's pipeline here, Kazakhstan, Turkey, Greece. That's why he needed to topple Turkey. That's why the Turkish coup failed. So you've got reporters like Eric Schmidt, who's going to get a Pulitzer, at the New York Times for saying, hey, there's 52 gas attacks that ISIS has done here in Syria alone, not counting even the Iraqi attacks. And every time they take over a village, kids, again, pictures of the kids, they send them to the sheikhs and they marry them off. So, Senate Armed Services Committee, your contact with Hillary, since now she's out of the State Department, after she leaves, is going to be through people like this, Philippe Reines. He's going to kind of run the interface for arms, where Huma is running the interface to the Muslim Brotherhood. So contacts with, Morell. Morell has left the CIA now. These guys are all in the same company. So all these State Department people that were involved with arms, he's going to be the funnel of the emails. And then Huma is going to be the funnel for talking to the tribe. So this is guns, and Huma is the gang. And now here we go with Comey. Now let's look at the trajectory of Comey. He worked at Lockheed in 2005. Do you think you would need to meet with the NATO generals to get them to sign off on a program like the F-35? Well, that's exactly what happened. And there was 5 years of meetings. And the guy who set those meetings up, quote unquote meetings, was this guy, Chandelon, the guy who just was killed. Now he was setting up these parties. Well, first we talk about the F-35 for about an hour, and then Comey goes back to the hotel, or whoever the Lockheed execs are, and then they bring the girls out, and things, if you read, things get worse from there. So that's why they think this guy is the leak. There's different leaks for this, but Comey's at Lockheed for 5 years, and they're pushing the F-35 the whole time. It's really when they went from the Joint Strike Fighter to the F-35. Huge Clinton Foundation donor. And also, Comey makes $6 million his last year. I don't know what he made over the whole 5 years. But then Comey goes to Bridgewater, the largest hedge fund. And now he's going to take the parts that hang off the F-35, the weapon systems, the target acquisition, and the sensors and so forth, and he's going to have Bridgewater invest in those, because there's more leverage investing in the startups than there is in the F-35. It doesn't matter how long it takes the F-35 to get going, as long as I get all these startups in early on the startups. Then you're going to have generals like Bouchard here, who ran this air campaign against Libya. He's going to be going to all these investor conferences after we've bought in and say, hey, you should buy this, you should buy this. Okay, and that's what he's doing here. Okay, they're also a huge Clinton Foundation donor. Bridgewater is. Okay, now I'm going to do that for 3 years. Comey's going to do that for 3 years. And what am I going to do after that? I'm going to go to HSBC, another huge Clinton Foundation donor, Clinton Foundation partner. Okay, because I want to track the money. Okay, I want to track the money of as these investments start coming in, as these dictators start to get toppled. I want to track their money. So that's the cycle of 3 huge Clinton donors in a row that Comey's worked for. Then he becomes director of the FBI to obstruct when the crime is done, now you have to do the obstruction. So first you have to rob the bank and then get the money. That's HSBC. Then you have to do the obstruction. Now we're in the trial phase. And why do I say that? Well, here, let's just take one of the several investigations of the Clinton Foundation, the Huma email server. I've talked about 18 now different Gmail accounts that the State Department used to hide Federal Records Act. Talked about the $675,000 bribe to his wife. There's been 7 quid pro quos. I've talked about the Miami office where he broke off the Haiti investigation so that the people in Haiti that have been saying for the last 25 years we only got 2% of the donations, broke that off so none of the other, trying to shut the investigation down, waiting 5 years to go through the emails. You can read down here all the obstructions that the FBI is doing. Now, I've also pointed out that the guy who's at the base of this whole gang, this is kind of like the mastermind, Mark Rich, wrote a book and said, this is exactly what I do. So very rarely do you in an investigation get a chance where the guy who, the mastermind says, this is how I did it. But I took the cartel money, I bought Gaddafi's oil, I put it in HSBC, then I donated tens of millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation in arms and oil deals for quid pro quo. Okay. And all the players are the same. He's a relatively new player, but he's been around with Hillary and Bill since 1993, and he was the Assistant Secretary of State. So Hillary was using him when she was the First Lady, aspiring to be the Secretary of State way back then in 1993. She's working with him the whole way State Department arms deals, State Department arms deals. That's all she did her whole time, other than coming up with a surveillance system with the FBI to add police powers. So that's it for today. And I might do a later edition if we get any late breaking news.